Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and in today's lesson I'm going to give you guys a complete 10-step guide that took me from creating really bad art to art that's good enough to set up my career, get me into places like Disney, and even blow up my social media accounts. Alright, so let's get straight to the lesson. Okay, so the agenda for today is that we are going to do an intro phase, which we are in right now. It's going to get over very soon. Then I'm going to give you guys 10 steps to get really good at art. Okay, so it's a 10-step guide which I have personally used myself, and I've made it up along the way because it's just based totally on my own experiences. Then I'm going to give you a guide for your own personal projects that we all want to do as artists as well, right? Then after that, I'm going to give you all a 3-month lesson plan on how to use this guide that I've shown you all the 10 steps. I'm going to break it down into 3 months. So hopefully by the end of 3 months, if you follow it, I can give you a guarantee that your art will be at least 2 times better. So apart from that, I want to be as realistic and open about these things as possible. So I'm showing you how I am improving currently. And to finish it off, because I get so many questions on devices, tools, software, even though it's not as important as you think, I'm going to give you guys my device and tool recommendations. Now, none of this is sponsored, none of this is promoted in any way. I just want to give out as much value as I can and give out a free course just for you guys. Okay, so just a quick intro on who I am before we get into the artwork, so it makes myself a bit more relatable to you guys, and so you know a bit about my journey and what I'm doing right now, and then we get straight to the lessons. Okay, so I graduated from Bangalore, India. I did a bachelor's degree in digital media arts, as you guys can see on the screen. And before I graduated from college, that's when I started working. In my 4th year, I started working for Disney and so on. All right. So I worked on multiple freelance projects throughout my college and early years, and even through my professional career as well, as a graphic designer, a background artist, a 3D artist, especially with modeling cars, a book illustrator, and even on the marketing side of things. Because I didn't know exactly what I wanted, and I didn't know what the potential was in the art industry, so I kept changing things over and over. So I have quite a bit of experience to share with you guys, and I've compiled it into the lessons that we're going to go ahead with. Now, after that, I worked in Disney animation for about 2.5 years, a little more than actually 2.5 years. And then I worked in Disney Plus, which is the live action side, for nearly a year, where I worked as a storyboard artist and a concept artist for one of the TV shows that were being produced at the time. After that, I left Disney and I co-founded Studio Sideline, which you guys can check if you check studiosideline.com or check the Instagram. Then I also grew my social media presence to over 1 million on Instagram, which is where I mainly focused all my efforts during the time. And now I'm just putting out free stuff on YouTube and growing the art community and contributing to it. Okay, so let's get straight to the lessons. Step number 1, okay, is that you need to get good at drawing. Okay, so drawing is the fundamental skill that you will require for everything going forward from here. And this might seem obvious to a lot of you, but also not to those who immediately start painting with just getting on softwares. Because the problem with softwares is they give you too many tools all at once and it's all overpowered and you don't know what to do. You have filters, adjustments, all sorts of effects, and then you have all the kinds of brushes and all. But the fundamental skill that you need to start with is to get good at drawing first. So learn to draw before you paint, okay? Why? Because it gives you a better control over the shapes, forms, design, language, and then it gives you a good basis that you can then draw whatever you want. And then painting is much easier after that. Okay, it is a fundamental skill that you will definitely need going forward, especially if you want to start developing your own art styles and take everything forward from there. Wait, the spelling mistake is there. I got to correct this. So art style. Yeah, that just distracted me for a bit. Okay, and it also has a lower entry level than painting, because to draw all you need is like a pencil and sheets of printer paper, Xerox paper, or a ballpoint pen, all of that, and you can literally do it anywhere. You can take an A5 sketchbook with you anywhere and just draw. You don't need a charged iPad, you don't need a tablet, you don't need a desktop setup, any of that. Just pencil and paper. And most top artists today, including myself, we love just going and just sketching stuff wherever we are as well. It just adds so much to you as an artist. And it has a much lower entry level than painting because of how easy it is to get into. Like I said, there's no investment, and there's not much investment in terms of time as well. Like, you don't have to spend time learning a software or anything like that. It's just straight get a pencil and start drawing. And it is also the best investment towards improving art, especially early on, especially when you are to learn the fundamentals and get good at it. Okay, now this is the basis of all the other lessons to follow, and we'll take it from there. Okay, now the next thing we want to look at is step 2 is start studying. Okay, now what do I mean by study? I don't mean to open textbooks and learn some theory, all of that, buy a lot of art books and study from that. That is, yes, I mean, that is what studying means. But at the same time, what we want to do is start copying things. But by copy, you don't want to exactly trace over and then say, okay, you know, this is a copy of that. You want to do to the best of your ability and being very true to yourself. Okay, so when you start studying, it is basically taking a reference image, keeping it to the side of your canvas or anywhere in front of you, or even on your screen, wherever, and then start making sketches of that to your current ability. Okay, it needn't be perfect, and you're going to get much better over time. Okay, so we want to start easy, right? We want to start with organic forms such as trees, rocks, landscapes, etc. And this is not advice that I've come up with. This is advice I've learned from various different places, from art college, from people who have put up stuff on YouTube before. Specifically, if I were to call out a name, I definitely give a lot of credit to Feng Zhu, as I learned a lot about being an artist just from Feng Zhu and his YouTube channel, FZD School, right? You can always look that up as well for more in-depth stuff on concept art and illustration and getting to the industry, especially the entertainment industry for gaming and films and all of that. Okay, so you want to build up the skill of sketching, right? Sketching is very important because sketching is basically rough drawing before your final lines and so on. Now, sketching is very liberating and gives you a lot of control over the shapes that you want to add in, helps you visualize your stuff before getting to the final artwork. Okay, so now why rocks, trees, and landscapes, right? Because now, for example, if I see a reference image of a tree that kind of looks like this, okay, it might be cool, wonky, with roots coming out and so on, and it has some cool silhouette of branches and all of that, right? But say your drawing ability is not so good right now, and you draw it like something like this, okay? You don't exactly copy the silhouette, you don't exactly copy the roots, branches, all of that. But the thing is, this still looks like a tree at the end of the day. So even if you mess up like 50% of your reference image, right, it still looks like a tree. The thing is, when you start drawing stuff that's more easily recognizable, such as people, animals, especially the ones that we see often, if you move just one eye up or low by an inch or so, it looks very off, right? So that's the thing. We want to start with organic forms, and all the artworks that you guys see on the left are just some of my studies through the years, through the ages that I've done, okay, to get to where I am right now. Okay, next, after we start studying with organic forms, which are trees, rocks, landscapes, we want to take it and start into more inorganic forms. So slowly transition. Okay, don't just immediately go into perspective, depth, all of that stuff, okay? So don't immediately go into trying and drawing things that are too symmetrical, a lot of man-made stuff. It looks the exact same on the left and right, where you have to copy paste stuff. We want to build up the skill of drawing more and more. Okay, so now when we go into inorganic forms, we want to slowly transition into it. Okay, just slowly. So what you guys can see here on the left, like for example, right, if we take this one, right, this one over here, I've still sketched a landscape, I've still sketched rocks, and in the middle I've thrown in a house. And these are all based on real world references that I have found online through Google, through Pinterest, through looking up reference packs on different sites. And you can just Google like specific locations like Icelandic, old architecture, or something like that, or even from your hometown, wherever it is. Like me from India, I can look up old South Indian architecture and look at how they lived, some of the houses, especially in the villages and so on, which tend to still be a mix of organic and inorganic shapes, like a lot of thatched roof leaves, mud walls, all of that stuff. Just adding those in, you can slowly start developing more and more skills, right? By now, your sketching is going to improve little more, right? So even if you look at this one over here, it's just pretty basic, but Yeah, and then this will help build up your perspective skills and understand design a little better. So now after this, you'll also be able to combine different elements together, right? You're combining grass on roofs, you're combining leaves, you're combining rocks. And since we are copying it from real world references, we are getting a good grasp of how these things are meant to look. So when in the future you have to design your own stuff, you have a good visual library to take forward for all of this. Okay, let's move on to step number 4. Okay, this is actually step 3. Okay, it is because I started moving a little more advanced into these shapes and forms. My throat is a bit caught up. I'm just having a sip of some tea before we get back to the rest of the lesson. Sorry for that. Okay, so as you guys can see, I've now started transitioning more and more into adding a little more straight lines, a bit more depth, a little bit more perspective. So here I don't recommend using shortcuts. Like for example, on Photoshop, if you hold shift and draw a line, it'll be perfectly straight. Like you guys can see me here that I'm drawing. But what I would recommend is definitely drawing it freehand. See, as you can see, my lines are still a bit wonky on these things. It's because I'm drawing it freehand. And these were all drawn on like Photoshop and stuff, like digital software. You can draw it on paper, but these are just drawing using a pencil brush and digital software, which you get for free with most apps. Okay, so I started with this one that you guys can see getting a bit more complex. Why this one? Because there's not much perspective on it. We are looking at it completely flat on, except for this roof over here that has some slight depth that you can see down up, but everything else is pretty much just flat. Then you can start getting a little bit more into depth, like pieces like this, and draw some rough guidelines to just break down the shapes to you. And once you start looking at references, you'll automatically understand these things a lot better. And like I said, the goal is to start doing these things slowly, right? We don't want to just jump into high level stuff, make it for a day or two, lose momentum, lose motivation, all of that, and then quit, right? We want to slowly keep getting better. And I would do these for hours every day. Okay, it would take me quite a while till I got to where I am. Okay, so step 4 is we want to start with creatures. Okay, after moving into like the inorganic kind of house structures, we want to look at creatures. These are a bit harder because they are more easily recognizable. Like I said, right? So if we took this alligator and we made one eye way up here, it look like a cartoon alligator that's giving some weird expression, right? So alligators and all are still not so easily recognizable unless they'll still, you can still mess up a bit, like maybe 20-30% will still look like that. But once we get to more recognizable animals like cats or dogs, it gets a lot harder to mess up, right? Because we're so used to seeing it, even on social media, in front of us, everything, right? And even these sketches are completely digital, but I put them on this book. That's another idea I got from Feng Zhu. He showed this in one of his videos many years ago. So I was like, I want to do this. And this is when I was learning. So these are sketches from back then, okay? These are sketches from like quite a few years ago, okay? And it's going to also increase your visual library outside your comfort zone, right? Because how many people do you know actually actively take time to sketch things like these, do studies, apart from what they just see on social media? A lot of artists these days, they get inspired by what they see on social media or create a lot of fan art and don't just work from the fundamentals up. So these things are very beneficial, right? So these things also give you a very good base in creature design. Like if you sketch a page of crocodiles, you sketch a page of different lizards, you sketch a page of snakes, all of that, some turtles, and then someone gives you the idea, okay, can you create a dragon design? Or you want to do that, right? You're going to take from your own visual library. You're not going to go the obvious route and create it how it's seen in like American or European TV shows and cartoons. You're going to build something that's a bit more unique because you've learned it, you've understood the fundamentals, you've understood the mechanics of how these creatures look and feel. It might be something that's quite new and unique and quite cool. Okay, so remember to have fun. Okay, while doing these are some more pages that I found of my old sketches. Oh yeah, so here I did some frogs, right? Here I did some lizards. Here I did some turtles, especially these snapping turtles and all, very, very cool. And like I said, I got a lot of this inspiration from Feng Zhu, so a lot of credit goes to him, okay? And the whole part of having fun is that it's exciting because you know that this is going to be a part of your journey, that you are going forward, and each sketch you make is taking you one step closer to that. And also stop adding too much pressure on yourself to make really good art all the time. It's okay if sketches are bad, because if you have fun, you'll keep showing up every day and doing it because you enjoy the process of making art. If there's too much pressure on it, over time you might just put it aside because you realize it's not worth it. And to actually get good at art, you need to put in some significant time and volume into actually getting good. So that's why it's always best to have fun and fall in love with the art process. Okay. Okay. So I especially put this on this page because I know drawing sorry, I know drawing creatures and stuff all the time may not be the most fun thing, especially if you want to draw characters, if you want to draw landscapes and all this. This is like a weird middle ground. Okay, next thing. Step 5 is characters and people. Okay, so now you can go into much more recognizable stuff. If you want to draw pets and cats, dogs, recognizable things, and characters and people then start getting a little more complicated, and you want to take time, and the process is exactly the same. Find a reference image, maybe off Pinterest, Instagram, or people in front of you, and then start drawing them. It need not be perfect. Like I can already see that this one isn't too good. And make a sketch, then move on. Make a sketch, move on, and try and improve on that sketch with the next one that you do. Don't just stick to one artwork for hours, okay? You want to set some time limits. So I usually, within an hour, I make 2 or 3 character sketches. But of course, when you're starting, make one sketch within an hour, then move on to the next. Now, the next week, you come back and look at it, okay? You're going to find mistakes or errors in it, and then be like, okay, yeah, that looks off. When you start finding mistakes and flaws in your own work, just by doing a lot of studies over and over, you know that you're growing. Okay, so that is also another key thing to note. Okay, so characters is step number 5. Great, we're already halfway through these lessons, and it starts getting a lot more intense from here, and you'll see why. Okay. We are still in the fundamental stage of building the skills. Now we have one more skill to build, which before we move on to the creative side completely, and that's the most fun side. Okay, now after step number 5, we want to start painting. Okay, so this is when you usually get on the software that you're using and you start figuring out like, okay, how do the brushes work and whatever. But it needn't be too complicated. You can just go with a simple default round brush for most of it, or find whatever painting software give you. They give you a good amount of fundamental sets, and that's really good, just good enough to stick with, right? So how do you study for painting? Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I did. So I would take an A4 canvas. So if you go to any painting software or art software like Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop, you can take an A4 canvas, or you can just do it manually. I think it's like 8.5 inch this way. This is exactly what I did, but you can please split it according to however you want. And 11 inch this way. Oops. Roughly, okay. Then I split it in 2, just like this. And I would put a reference image on the top part over here, and at the bottom I would do my study. So it kind of looking at it at the same time helped me study it a lot better when there's one on top and one below. And I would set some rules, okay? So the first rule is that there's no tracing or just blindly copying it and then learning how to paint after doing some rough line art. The second rule is no color picking. Okay, so what I mean by color picking is, for example, if you press Alt on most painting software or any shortcut key that you set, you see this eyedropper tool that comes up, right? So I can pick this color or this color. And if you look at my colors on the right side of my canvas, they then change, okay? Or wherever you put your colors. So I can pick that color, I can pick this color, I can pick this green. So then it becomes cheating when you can actually just pick all the colors that you've seen in the reference image and then do a study. That's not what counts. And the next rule would be to set a time limit, okay? Because you don't want to sit and study for a week on one painting, okay? If you want to improve fast, you need to increase the volume and the number of repetitions you do of it to get faster, right? So initially, if you want, you can set like a 2-hour time limit to do a study, because you're still understanding the software. You're still understanding, okay, this brush, the default round brush, do I turn on the opacity or not? All these things that might seem complicated initially. There's no right or wrong, everyone paints differently, but you need to find your flow, right? So do a study just using whatever you know and over time get faster. So initially maybe keep 2 to 3 hours and then get it lower. So I would spend an hour a day minimum and do minimum one study a day. And during my college time, like this was after my college hours at night, I would go home and do a study. And that's how I actually got so much better at digital art and digital painting. That's how I found my art style, and a lot of things came just through doing studies. Okay, let's go back to a nice blue color that I can use for the rest of this presentation. Now let me show you guys some examples of studies. Okay, so let's look at these. Now, when it's zoomed out, these look quite, okay, they look nice, right? They look cool, you know, these are nice landscape paintings and all, but if you zoom in, you can just see how rough they are with the brush strokes, which is what I mean by keeping your studies quick, keeping it rough, and even the brush I used, right? I think I still have the exact same brush somewhere. Where is my default set? Derek's brushes. Okay, the shredder. Yeah, boom. So yeah, this brush is the exact same brush that I've been using from college to make all these artworks, just like this. So, and I use this single brush for all of these pieces, which is exactly what I was saying, right? You don't need to invest in brushes and all of that and make it too complicated. This is all just done with one brush. You can see it's the exact same one that I'm just adding here. I know it looks quite fancy, but it's actually quite a terrible brush to paint with from scratch, especially for a beginner, because it keeps rotating, so it's quite random, erratic. It's quite chaotic if you like the impressionistic style or you want these rough textures. Like, see, I can just keep adding more on this mountainside. And yeah, these studies were there. So these studies would take me around 20 to 30 minutes each. I would do these in one sitting. I think I did these during a class one time. The lesson was really boring, so I was just sitting and doing these. Yeah, so I'll just do these studies. You can add some, like a cloud there, make it reflect here somewhere, and use references always for these, because we're going to get to the stage when we're going to do these without any references, and that's a different phase. All right, now, why are these kept so rough and not finished? Okay, like why do these still look so rough? Because I realized that at one point, if I took it to 90% of an artwork, which is where these things are, the last 10% takes up a lot more time, takes up 10 times more time, because you can probably do this in like 20 minutes after building up enough speed, or say you do it in an hour, right? Now rendering this out and making it look as nice as possible is going to take forever, right? It's going to take hours. So my first few studies, I would do that. For some reason, I wanted to make it as photorealistic as possible because I thought that would be the biggest success. But yeah, so these are some of the studies I actually managed to find. When were these? I even used to put the date on each artwork. Okay, 2016, September. Okay, so that's the thing. You can make it look as realistic as possible, but it'll only develop your rendering skills. Boom. Okay, so it'll only develop those skills. Rendering is just the amount of detail you put to take it to a final product and finished thing, which is good. Rendering skills are nice to have, but they don't develop your fundamental skills, which is your colors, how you use colors, your forms, your composition, the storytelling, all of that. Rendering is just the final stage which can take up the most amount of time. So I would just focus a lot on just the initial first 80 to 90% of an artwork and then move on to the next study, right? Because I was learning a lot more then. And if I took more time, then I would only do like maybe one study in 2 days at the time of when I was making these artworks, because these took so long to render. I think these took me like 6 to 8 hours back then, minimum, I think. And then I take it from there. Now, these are landscapes. Like I said, painting studies, you want to start with things that are a bit organic, okay? They're easy to do. And landscapes for me was also quite a big change, because I came from the background of being like a charcoal artist where I would draw celebrity portraits. And now I am learning digital art. So I went the complete end spectrum, because like I need to get out of my comfort zone. So I did landscapes, okay? And now I started doing animals as well, as you guys can see. I'm still using this brush only, it seems okay. And I would do these studies. If you guys can see, they're still quite rough and painterly all over, which is perfectly fine. That's what we want when you do a study. We just need to capture these. And these references I would get from wallpaper sites. I think there were two in particular. like Wall Up, and I think the other one was Pexels. I haven't gone there in years, but these were the two sites I found online, and I would just copy them from wallpapers. But I would prefer copying them from normal photographs so that you understand things that are non-edited. And later on, since your fundamentals are good, you can then add the edits in your own painting and do have that creative control. Because when you're studying a lot of these overly edited images, you're studying someone else's creativity, and you tend to lose what the base of something realistic is. And then all your artworks will look like that, right? You want to have your own original view to take forward. Okay, now let me give you guys some examples of studies I've done a little bit more recently. I think these were like 2 years ago, a year or two ago. Okay, so what I've done is, let me just get a new color. Let me show you guys this one on the left first. So this is the reference image that you guys can see. And my idea was to try and copy it here. I did this within an hour or so. And I wanted to figure out how to draw water and capture this mood and all of that. Now, if you see, the colors aren't exact because mine ended up being a bit more lighter and saturated, the water, especially this area. But it ended up with me finding a nice technique for how to get these leaves floating and the reflections and all of that, right? Get this water texture, which is something I started using in a lot of artworks going forward, especially this method, which is basically taking a leaf brush, filling up your canvas with it, and then distorting it below, and you get this texture on top of the water, right? So my goal is not to create an exact copy. My goal is to study as much as I can from it within a time limit, then move on. Here are some more artworks that I've also done. 4 over here. I don't think I found the reference images for these, otherwise I would put them in this presentation. But yeah, they're just roughly like this. And yeah, let me show you guys some more. Now, here are 4 more artworks. You guys can actually see the differences between the reference image and the artwork in these. So the reference image over here is this one that you guys can see. I didn't draw the people. The people are missing, the clothes, all of that. The boat size is different. A lot of things are different over here. But I managed to capture the mood of it overall. And it kind of looks like the reference image in that sense, like the atmospheric mood of it. And that's what worked for me. And this, at the end of the day, looks like water, even though it's not as reflective as a reference image. But for me, it's still a win, right? I did this, again, within an hour. Maybe, actually, these must be 30, 40 minutes. Over here, this reference image looked extremely intimidating because I'm like, this looks so chaotic yet controlled at the same time. There's a waterfall and there's so much chaos and leaves and rocks and splashes of water and all of that. But yeah, I tried my best to do it. I used a bunch of different texture brushes just to explore and experiment. And at the end, I used the default round brush the most. As you guys can see, the rock textures, the water and all ends up just being the default round brush. Once again, over here, I wanted to capture this atmospheric scene, but my windmill ended up being a bit stunted in my sketch. But I'm not going to change that. Like looking back at these, I can see what I lacked out on and I can improve on the next one. So, but it's good. I still managed to capture some mood of this. And over here, this one, here's the reference image again. I wanted to capture this lighting, this warm lighting hit this colder side as well. And this one piece helped me understand the difference between warm lighting and cold shadows a lot, that I took forward into a lot of my artworks. So after this piece in particular, it changed my artworks quite a lot, because then I understood, okay, a scene can look cold and warm at the same time, and how do you do that? Just by doing this study, right? It helped me a lot. So that's what I mean by the importance of studies. Your fundamental skills, your understanding of colors and all just improves so much. Okay, now, do you also have to just study from real life? No, because you want to develop your art style, you want to develop a lot of things. So this is from one of my favorite games, visually speaking, which is the Ghost of Tsushima. And these are reference images that you guys can see on the top left here. And I made some small additions because like I think the silhouette looked cooler with this hat. So I just added like this thatch hat over here. Right, so these are studies again, and as you guys can see, my art style is developing more and more as I do these, and I'm learning from different spaces. Once again here, the reference image looked too dark to me, so I brightened it up on my own choice on the left side that you guys can see. Okay, and I added in the same character doing the studies. Here, in fact, I added a character, which is the guy on the horse, okay, and added in the birds, all of that stuff. Right, and I removed the smoke trail over there because it I don't know, I just thought it'd be cooler if I had the guy. So I am just changing up things slowly with these reference images and studying them to the best of my capability in that time. These all took less than an hour each, about an hour. And as you do more and more studies, you get so much faster, which is definitely a big thing uh, in my workflow. Okay, because I love working efficiently as opposed to um, like some of my friends, which I totally respect and understand. They like the art of spending time on something and detailing and intricacy. I like the process of making things very efficient and fast. So there's no right or wrong. There's very different things, and we work together really well because we can take out different parts of the project. I come up with the rough ideas, colors, and all. My friend can, for example, finish it off really well in a way that I don't have the patience to or the skill to, right? So there's always teams that you can collaborate with. There's no right or wrong, right? Especially if you're getting into an entertainment industry workflow or anything, you'll be working with big teams, each of whom handle different things. So it's very exciting. You always push the best of your capability. And here are some studies I did from one of my favorite games franchises, which is Dark Souls by From Software. And yeah, I just use this default rectangle brush for everything. Let me just turn on the opacity, pick a color. Yeah, so if you come here to this, you can literally see all these artworks are just made with a single default rectangle brush. So you can just yeah, use it to anything. And I did it in black and white because I just wanted to understand the values a little better. I was feeling like my work lacked a little depth and stuff, so I wanted to understand values. And so yeah, the references again are at the corners, and the final artworks are done on either just in black and white. And again, I wouldn't spend more than an hour on these. These are super rough. I just want to capture it. And if you zoom out and look at it in thumbnail form, all of them look okay. They pass. So that's all that I need to do, and then I move on to the next one. Okay. Here are some more examples. I just keep them on the screen. Here is that Irithil of the Boreal Valley Chapel. Here's, I think, the New Londo, Anolondo, whatever thing. I haven't played the game in so long. Here's again Irithil of the Boreal Valley. Once you enter it, and then I don't want to leave any spoilers. And here's a bonfire that exists before the woods or something. I haven't played the games in years. I think they came out in 2018 or something. Okay, that's studying and painting and getting all good at that. Okay, now before the next step, I'm going to take another sip of this tea. Perfect. Now, step 7 is start adding your own story on top of your studies, right? Start adding your own story. Now, the top secret formula for this, okay, is do a study and add a unique story element. This artwork on the left isn't particularly a study. I just put it here because it looks quite nice and looks like there's some deep story over here. I'll give you guys some examples. So all of these artworks that you see did not have these characters in them, okay? None of them had these characters that I'm just circling on the screen in them. Those are just characters that I added. Now, the easiest way to add story to an artwork is to add a character into it. So I found these again on wallpaper sites. Here it was a nice picture of a road in this autumn forest. I added some creature over here. I wasn't too good at people, so I draw creatures because they're easier. Same thing over here. I don't think there were any people walking on this reference, so there might have been, which I've added. But then I added a creature as well, so it looks like there's a different story. Here I don't think there are any people here, so I added some. And these are all studies that I had done based on background stuff that I just found online, background references. Awesome. Next, I did the same with animals as well. So if you guys can see, I have done the entire thing, like going from landscapes to organic, inorganic forms, all of that. Even when it comes to stories, like I don't even know what the stories are in half of these, okay? Like, yeah, I thought it'd be cute if there are some chicks holding a stick poking a dog. I found these 2 reference images on different artworks and I just put them together, and then I put some paper hats on them. I don't know why. Back then, I don't know what I was thinking. Here, I did a study for landscape, and there was this oxen, a bull pulling a plow in the foreground. So I sketched my own boy on it who has like a bag full of maps or something. If he's in his head, he's going on some adventure. Just very, very basic stuff. And I want to be as open and honest with you guys. I didn't know what I was thinking. Then here I saw this robot design, right, from a top artist who I follow. This is years ago. So Goro Fujita. Okay, so he was very well known for these robot designs. I mean, still is. And then I saw this picture of a cat, so I was like, okay, let me just draw this. Okay, and here, this is like really bad. Okay, I'll show you guys in a bit. So I thought, okay, an owl, right? I saw a photograph of an owl online. It's a great photograph. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna make it one of those passenger or delivery owls from Harry Potter. So like, okay, gift box. But the thing is, you know, if this owl, I realized later, say, imagine that this is the owl, right? Ooh, something like this. If it sits up, what happens to the gift box? Does it like topple over or all the stuff inside? So actually, like, it should be carrying it down here. So it can rest the gift box down and then sit on top of it, or rest it down and sit somewhere else, right? So these need not be so accurate logically, but hey, I did a study, it helped me improve in some way. Let me go back to another brush that I can use. Perfect. All right. Step number 8, learn how to thumbnail. Now, after you've done enough studies, after you start adding your own characters or story elements to anything, it's time to build your own art from scratch, because now you have the visual library to do so. You have the drawing skill, you have the skill of values, you have the skills of some composition, which way it's going to build with this next lesson, and we'll take it from there. Let me clear my throat up a bit. All right, now, so you don't want to use any references at this stage. Just make rough sketches of your ideas straight out of your head. You can always use references later to take this rough sketch and then make it look good. You know, for example, let's see this artwork of a guy sitting on top of a city skyline over here. I can then look up references of city skylines and make it look like whatever city I want. I can look up different references of these things that he's sitting on, borders, whatever, benches, whatever, parapet, and make references. I can look up different guitars, I can look up different jackets, add all those references, right? So, but the ideation is, it's good if it's totally from your mind. You can literally draw a stick figure and make a thumbnail, but you know how to draw well by now, so might as well flex on that. Okay, so like I said, you can use references later to help improve them. Don't spend too long on each sketch. Honestly, 10 to 20 minutes is good enough. These are meant to be quick and should just have enough information to convey your idea, right? So now all of these are basically concepts that I would do for clients. So this is one of my friends. He needed a music cover art. So he said like, okay, I have this idea. I want a guy with a guitar. You decide the background and all of that. It's quite vague at the time. And I would give always 4 concepts. Even when I make thumbnails, I usually make about up to 4 ideas. Why? Because the first idea is usually the most generic. By the fourth idea, it tends to be very creative that you have to push yourself. 2 or 3 may be here and there. And even the first idea may be the best. But now you for sure know that you have 4 ideas that you've tried and tested. And you have the confidence to go ahead with even the first one, even if that's the first one you did. So you never have to think about, oh, this could have been better or not, the idea, because you gave it 4 attempts. Right? So I just sketch different things, and it's so easy. Instead of making full finished artworks, especially for clients, you make a rough sketch, send it to the client or send it to anyone, or even to yourself. It's a personal project, and then you get to decide out of it. Similarly, these are really bad sketches now that I look at them. There's no context, not much thought, but I want to show you guys what all I used to try anyway, right? You can thumbnail house designs, location designs. This is for some underground city concept that we had working on at the studio. These were very off, and yeah. Now here are some more. These ones on the left you've already seen. I just put it here to show just how many of these I used to do all the time. And yeah, these are just rough examples. I don't think I need to go in and explain each one of these what they are, but they're quite self-explanatory. Here's an old couple where the man is singing to his wife, and he's like, some old love story is going on there. Here there's a girl listening to music, vibing in her own space. In all of these places, it's kind of the same story concept, just different location and different framing. So thumbnails also give you the liberty to try as many different compositions and framings that you want without putting in too much effort. It's kind of like the rough sketching of painting, you know, it's the rough sketching before painting. Okay, these are some more thumbnail ideas that I've done. This is for a concept that we were working on at the studio at the time. I think it's fine for me to share these. I think we can this at the time, this project, so it's fine for me to share it. So none of these were being taken forward anyway. So these are just rough ideas I had of different designs that our character is going to come across. Similarly here, these are indoor settings. I just want to show you guys like how much of these sketches I've been doing and what all goes into ending up with the artwork and the stuff that I put out. All this goes in the background, and which not be many people know. They just assume like, okay, you practice for a little bit and just reference top artists and you get that. But there's a lot more fundamental studying that goes on within that, right? So you're coming up with these concepts. You're some old tavern kind of store that character is going into that we can see over there. Okay, how I used to come up with these thumbnails was also I used to challenge myself a little bit to take up prompts. Like these were prompts from Inktober. Maybe this was like 2016 or 17, or was it 18? Okay, I don't know. One of these years, right? Maybe, or whenever. Like these are the prompts. It's like Swift, Divided, Poison, Underwater, Sword, Long, Shy. And I would take each of those prompts and come up with one quick artwork for it, right? And these also help me a lot. Like this is such a cool artwork, right? I can definitely take it and make something cool out of this. You know, these framings, like this guy drank something and died. This one looks super badass, right? This guy, he did some hockey level chop with his sword and he just sliced this giant over there. Yeah, it's quite cool stuff. Ian Swift. Now that I look at them, not bad, not bad. Here are some more. Crooked. You guys can see that my style is slowly evolving more and more. These ones don't have too much texture, and these ones are starting to get texture a bit heavy because I'm experimenting more and more. Right, so here's Crooked, Screech, Run, Teaming, Giant, Fierce, and Shatter. All right, now that's step number 8. Now let's move on to step number 9, is these thumbnails. You want to start doing them in color directly right now, right? And this is going to be a very, very important phase because I'm going to show you guys exactly how my art style changed to where it was and what got me into Disney. Okay, so that's why this stage is very important. When you take those rough ideas and you can directly paint them out. And let's get to that. Okay, so we want to now use our built-up visual library to help you explore thumbnails with color and have fun with them too. Rough thumbnails, remember, can always be made into final artworks later, right? You can take this concept and then do it again, and you can literally then color pick from your own thumbnail and make a good artwork. Now here, if you look, these are quite random things. Like I don't even know what half of these ideas were. I don't even know what the geography is over here because see, this is the horizon line. But here there's a ground, here there's a ground, here there's a mountain. Okay, so it's quite vague and random. But you'll see over time how my style has evolves and changes. I'm so glad I still have all of these artworks from back then. Here you can see that it's starting to get a little bit more saturated, and these are just random ideas. You can get ideas by generating them on prompt sites. You look up art challenges. You just take the Inktober prompts, do all of that, and come up with ideas. And the point is just to explore freely with colors. Now, how do you make the colors work together? That's why we did weeks of studies earlier to get to this level, right? Because once you understand the fundamentals of colors, values, and all of that, you can string in some random colors together and still work. That is why studying is so important as a fundamental. Okay, we have this, and you guys can see slowly, my artwork is getting a bit more simple with the shapes, and the textures are starting to go a little like from here. From here, it's a little bit more on the realistic side. Here, it's getting a bit more saturated, getting a bit more simple. The concepts here, it's getting a lot more blockier as well, as you can see here. They're very strong silhouettes and just few gradients in the background for all of these concepts and designs. This is where my art style is now starting to form. So that's just the thing about art style. The more you draw, the more you find your art style. Okay, there's no secret hack to do that. There are ways to do that. When we are working on industry projects and you're like, okay, we need to emulate this art style, or one artist comes up with an art style and we have to copy it for the rest of the project, right? That's a different case. That if you're talented enough, you can pick it up and do it, because that art style usually has a methodology and workflow which you just have to copy. But when it's your personal art style, right, it's a bit different. It evolves over time, and these were done over a span of months that you can see. And at the next stage, right, go from this to this. And now you're like, okay, this is what then got me into Disney, right? So this is the art style that actually got me into Disney. I don't even know what the Disney logo looks like anymore, but yeah. So yeah, this is now you can see how kind of simple, strong silhouettes, bright colors, random concepts. But yeah, at Disney, I was doing a lot of stuff like this. Yeah, it's quite fun. Okay, now we're done with step number 9. You guys can see the importance of doing thumbnails with color and then just having a lot of fun with art and making a ton of stuff. We are going to look at step 10, which is create a personal project. This page is a little text heavy because if you guys want to screenshot and just use it as a guide or something, I just did that. Instead of me having multiple slides that take you, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3 under this, here's just one image that you guys can just look at, right? So why a personal project? It helps keeps you focused, right? So you know what you are doing. You don't have to keep thinking every day and like coming up with different ideas every day, and you know what you're doing for the next few weeks. Gives you experience and credibility, right? So imagine someone comes to our studio and or me as an artist, and they, hey, can you look at my portfolio, right? And you are like, okay, this person does some random studies, random artwork here, some social media posts that they put. But when you have projects that you do, I'll give you guys clear examples of those projects. I mean, you guys can see some examples already. It gives you so much credibility because you started a project, you've seen it through, and now you have like 5 or 10 artworks within that space that I can look and be like, okay, we can use you, you know? That's how it is. So it builds work ethic because you are literally starting a project and seeing it through, which is quite impressive. Not many people do that. Better for portfolio and opportunities because you're giving a proof of concept that you can work in a project, you can oversee this, you can, handle the ideation, the rough art, the final art, all of that, and helps with creating original work, right? Because once you set these limitations, you tend to be more creative within limitations, and that's just how it helps push your original work a lot more. And you're actually taking time aside to sit and create these personal projects. And you don't have to worry about what I draw today, which is this question that so many people ask me: how do you know what to draw? How do you know what to work on? Create a personal project. Now here's a guide. Okay, step 1 is to come up with an idea based on your interests. Okay, this has to be your interest, not someone else's. Not because, okay, this artist has done this online, I like that, I'm going to do that. Like, for example, I'm now creating Pokemon themed art because I grew up playing Pokemon. I'm like, okay, I haven't really done any Pokemon fan art, so I'm just creating a series of like 10 artworks. I've done like 6 right now, so I have like 4 more to do. But a lot of artists are saying that, okay, we'll do Pokemon, we'll do Pokemon. For me, it's like a personal project, and I'll have a 10 set piece that I can do whatever I want with. But that's also fan art. I would say if you want to stand out and do stuff, fan art is not bad. It'll get you hired by those brands and people that actually are in that space. But original projects also help you find yourself as an artist more and really put your own things out. And it's also gives you a lot more credibility as well. Unless you take fan art and make it totally yours. Like, for example, if I did something like, oh, what if Pokemon was in India? What would the Pokemon look like? What would the Pokemon world look like? What are the new species that exist? Whatever, all of that, right? Then decide how many artworks you will do. For example, 10 book covers reimagined. Now, if you're an avid reader of some fiction works, a lot of them don't have good book covers, especially the old ones. So you can look at it and be like, okay, this series, okay, for example, the Mistborn series, right, by Brandon Sanderson. You can take that and be like, I want to redesign the covers in my own way and do that. But that's a more recent series. You can take older ones especially and do that as a concept, right? Or any kind of writers or authors that you want. Do that, put it out. It gives the world a proof of concept that, oh, this project is cool. It also helps potential clients see that, okay, I want that, because now you're giving them proof that you can do this. Then you need to create a schedule to help you plan for it. Okay. Then collect references and make your notes. So a schedule is basically very simple in the sense that you're like, okay, in the first 2 weeks, I need to be done with all the rough sketches. In the next 2 weeks, you need to be done with all the rough colors. And in the final, like the week after that, I need to have one finished color piece. And then in the few weeks after that, finish all. It can be simple like that, or you can break it down as per your own current schedules. Don't spend too much time thinking about it, but put it on a schedule, so that at the end of every week, you can then revisit the schedule, change it up if you haven't done it, or if you've done more than what you've said, change it up the next week, right? You need to know what your potential is, what you are actually capable of, to set enough goals as an artist, right? Setting goals and meeting those goals is very important to progress your journey ahead. Start with rough sketches, then make 2 to 4 thumbnails of each illustration. Make a color draft of the selected thumbnail, and then take it to the finish. This is the most important thing, right? Take it to the finish, right? Finish your artworks. Okay, next. Bonus, upload it for the world to see and talk about it, right? That is the bonus, which means that you're not making this primarily for social media. Social media is the bonus. The primary thing is like, this is art for you, for your portfolio, for your career, for your future, all of that. Social media just gets it at the end, right? So a lot of people do the reverse. They're like, okay, what can I do for social media? And then they get too carried away by what works on social media and do that. Instead, become a good artist first, then figure out social media, or do both at the same time. But similarly, I would still prioritize making good art. Okay, here is a 3-month lesson plan for you guys, right? Based on the 10 steps that we had done. Okay, so month 1 is drawing and fundamental skills. You can literally see it on the screen and take a screenshot or save this or something, whatever you guys want. Practice drawing loosely and make it part of your day. Remember this. So we want to schedule it into your day so that it becomes a habit, right? So every day, either before you sleep at night or first thing in the morning or after lunch, whenever, right? Or evening break, start sketching, practice it loosely, and do it every single day. Okay, week 2. And what do you draw? Draw anything right now. We want to develop the skill of drawing. So sit and draw whatever you see in front of you. Remember, it's not for social media. It doesn't have to look good. It's just for you. So draw whatever you want. If you're watching anime, try and draw those characters, whatever. We just want to develop the habit of drawing and sketching more, because most people don't do enough of this. Okay, and draw with the intention to improve. Don't just draw as doodles, right? You have to take this seriously if you want to improve. Week 2, start studying inorganic forms. What do you mean inorganic? Let me remove that F. Right, so now we're going to do the rocks, trees stuff, right? Week 3, study the inorganic forms. So we're going to start drawing like houses and structures. Week 4 is study creatures, right? So within 4 weeks, we've gone to creatures. And this is like drawing every single day for at least an hour or 2, just drawing and filling up like 1 page at least a day with like 4 or 5 sketches, right? If you can't do this every day, increase the timeline by 2, right? Take the first 8 weeks for that. But this is like a crunch 3-month lesson plan. Think you're in art school. Okay, month 2 is character and painting studies. So we have human character sketches, where we want to start with drawing in characters. And then week 6 is we're going to do painting studies and then keep doing sketches, right? So we still want to do these character sketches throughout the entire week 6. And you can also do creature sketches, landscape, all of that. We don't want to stop sketching until month 3, right? So week 7 is painting more of these studies. Okay, so 2 weeks of painting studies. So of just that, because these studies are super important. And week 8 is do studies and then add stories to them, right? So do a week of that. 1 study a day, add a story. You should have like 7 story pieces by the end of it. Week 9, start thumbnailing plus doing studies. So you do like your 7 studies plus thumbnails every day. Thumbnails are just like 4 sketches of ideas that you have, very rough. Thumbnails should not take you more than an hour. And study, again, do an hour of study, right? Then you want to do thumbnailing with color. Get a good grasp of this. This is not as hard as you think, okay? Because you've already done enough studies with painting that your color is just naturally going to come to you. Then you want to take 1 thumbnail to finished artwork to give yourself self-confidence and proof that you can create high-level artwork, okay? So like, for example, this artwork on the left, I would consider a finished artwork that I've done. I thought it was cool. I put this journey on tracks and all, because this is like a journey as an artist. There's an image on the left, right? And these images on the left are what I've personally made. I just put them there just for the aesthetics. So yeah. And week 12 is when you get started on a personal project and take it from there. Okay, so I would do all the planning of the personal project and coming up with ideas, collecting references, all of that for this personal project, making some rough sketches. And that's the end of the 3 months. In week 11, you need to have a finished artwork, okay? But week 12 is when you start the rest of your artistic journey. Okay, so that's how I would do it. I wouldn't say start and finish a personal project in just 1 week. Take a little bit more time, okay? We want to put in a little effort, because remember, if things are easy and fast, it's easily replicatable. You want to create something that's quality, spend a bit more time on it. Okay, now let me tell you what I'm doing these days, right? So do I still study today? Of course I do, but there's a twist. So instead of just no tracing, no color picking within an hour, all of that, what I do is I also make it stylized. So I take reference images and use texture brushes because I'm at a stage now where I'm figuring out exploring new styles, exaggerating shapes, figuring out like shape language, all of that. And yeah, these are all studies taken from photographs. I don't think any of these had characters in them, or maybe they did, I'm not sure. Uh, but yeah, I would just add in my own textures and come up with I'd created a bunch of these brushes, which are there for all of you guys who are following my Patreon or get them on Gumroad. All these brushes are the exact same, you guys know it. So yeah, then these are some more studies that I've just done. These are all very, very quick. This is what I used for the cover welcome image that you guys saw. Okay, and here's some more. So I'll do one of these studies a day at the end of my day just to get a grasp of this art style and just getting better at colors, forms, and stuff, right? These are super fun. These are also done during my just free time because it's like therapy for me, just to sit and make studies. And I didn't intend to put these up on social media, but I ended up doing that because at the end of the day, putting up a collection of like 10 of these artworks is quite nice. What about drawing? Like, do I still draw? Yes, I do. So I sketch, oops. So I still sketch a lot on paper, like with an ink pen on paper. And I also sketch like digitally, and these are just rough ideas and concepts that I've done. Just working on an idea. I can't speak too much about it. It's just a personal project, but I just wanted to take it and show you guys just the concept that I've been developing, right? So I still sketch a lot. Now, what is this? Okay, to end this, let's look at some device and software recommendations just to give you guys a good understanding. Okay, firstly, there is no right or wrong device, tool, or software to use, and the best one isn't the most expensive. Okay, so I'll walk you guys through it. So the entry level is a phone, either an Android or an iOS or whatever, with a drawing tab connected to it. So these drawing tabs have wires. It'll plug into the side or the top and it'll connect to you, and you can use it as a stylus to draw with this pen on the tab. Okay, so the brands that are usually good for this tend to be XPen. I'm not sponsored by them to make this anything. It's just out of my personal experience. I've had lots of brands send me tablets from all over, and XPen tends to be the best with these smaller entry-level ones. Huion and all is also good, or the entry-level Wacom tablets. Now the thing is, XPen, since they are a smaller company, market share especially, they try to innovate a lot on these lower budget tabs, and XPen does really well in my country, especially India, because they're half the price of Wacom, right? And they tend to give a lot more features. So especially if this is an entry level and you want to start your art journey or just do this as a hobby and all, and these are really good. You don't have to invest too much into it, okay? But this is if you don't want to put in too much money. These are great and they're really good, okay? And the softwares that you can use for this are basically anything free is what I would recommend. Ibis Paint, Sketchbook, Infinite Painter, grade 3 softwares. Now mid-range is what I use. Honestly, it's my zone, okay? So you can either have a mid-range laptop like this, like an entry-level MacBook, okay, or entry-level MacBook, even a MacBook Pro M1 from like 4 years ago, great, right? The Pro, Max, all of that is too overpowered. If you're a video editor and all, sure. But if you're just making 2D art, like just digital art, those are really great, right? And especially MacBooks, they last ages, or a mid-range gaming laptop, right? Because the graphics card and all is built for that. And a graphics tablet. Okay, so a graphics tablet is a tablet that does not have a display. That's why you just call it a graphics tablet. And my best thing that I use personally is, I'm drawing on it right now. It's an Intuos Pro. So that's the one I can recommend. Again, this isn't sponsored by anyone. So the Wacom Intuos is the base model or the Intuos Pro. Why? Because I've been using Intuoses forever and nothing happens to them. So like my Intuos I picked up in 2020. So this is the 5th year of using it extensively. I'm not going to change it anytime soon. I have no reason to. And my favorite tool to use on the go, which has actually built my entire career out of my social media career, is an iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil. Now I say an iPad Pro because I own an iPad Pro. But the current day iPads, they are more than enough, like just a base level iPad with an Apple Pencil or the iPad Air, more than enough to use Procreate on it. Now, softwares for this, like I said, Procreate is only for like iPad and iOS. So I would recommend Procreate on the iPad or Art Studio Pro, which is what my friends use to draw on the iPad. Now, for the laptop with the graphics tablet, I would say like Photoshop is the standard, Clip Studio Paint. So Clip Studio Paint, the CSP, and Krita. Krita is the free one. Clip Studio Paint is like mid-range budget, and Photoshop costs a lot because you usually end up paying for Photoshop. You can just buy the app, which is reasonable, or you pay for the entire Adobe suite, which can cost a lot, right? So, but Krita is still overpowered. A lot of artists use Krita, and that's fine. Right, high end. I don't use high end stuff, but a lot of artists do when it's not necessary, but it's definitely a big step up if you're making this your career or if you have enough money and you want the biggest comfort. Is to get a Wacom Cintiq or a large display tablet connected to a powerful laptop and a PC. Okay, why do I say powerful? Is because some of the lower level laptops, they cut corners and they don't let you have too many multiple displays. And if you have a big screen like this on a Wacom, it's going to be on a desk, so you might as well have a laptop and a screen and a Wacom, or like all of that sort out. So might as well have a powerful laptop because of it. Like, yeah, this I think is Sam Desart's display. I found the image on Google, but I recognize his setup. And yeah, Huion and XP Pen also have decent display tablets, but Wacom just dominates the space because if you're going to spend above $1,000 or even $2,000 on a drawing tablet, you might as well go and get the one that's best known for, which tends to be Wacom. Because if you're doing a display tablet, I would just recommend getting an iPad or like a lower Wacom One or something like that. It's a 12 or 13-inch screen tablet that can connect. But yeah, softwares are the same for these two. Okay, so it's only the device that changes, that you get a bigger screen to draw on, right? So that is my software and device recommendations. I know it's quite brief and a little vague, but that's the thing. It does not matter which software you use, what tool you use, what brushes. Only thing that matters is the artist and the work you put in, right? So there's no right or wrong software, because in my studio alone, which is Studio Sideline, I think I'm the only one who still draws on Procreate. Everyone else uses Art Studio Pro. I use like, okay, Photoshop in a different way. People use Clip Studio Paint. Like, there's no right or wrong. We even work with people who use Krita. They just send us the files. It works, right? So there's no right or wrong there. And yeah, I think that is all to end this lesson. And of course, you guys, let me just change this up a big. Let me just give you guys a big thank you for signing in, joining in for this. And yeah, let me just scale this up. Boom. Yeah. Thank you guys for being here and for being part of this lesson. And whatever you guys want more of, I hope I gave you as much value as I could within this 1 hour of your time. And I aim to get better with each video that I put out on YouTube. This is a free course completely for you guys. And I will see you all on the next one. I'm open to feedback. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to everything to try and improve from you guys. So give me recommendations on what you would like to see, and if you like this or what things I could improve on, and I'll take it from there.